Moving on to our next story, Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives propose avoiding the looming government shutdown, but President Obama's Affordable Care Act would be the casualty. On the budget, Republicans propose to extend the budget until December 15th, but permanently defund affordable care. On the debt ceiling, they propose free borrowing and delayed health care for 1 year, but mandated funding for the Keystone Pipeline, cutting entitlements and tax reform. President Obama calls the last-minute proposal extortion.
You have never seen in the history of the United States the debt ceiling or the threat of not raising the debt ceiling being used to extort a president or a governing party and trying to force issues that have nothing to do with the budget and have nothing to do with the debt.
Alexander Bolton is the senior staff reporter for the congressional newspaper The Hill and joins us from Washington, D.C. Alexander, thank you for your time. I got to just ask you this question. Are these proposals from the GOP political genius or political suicide?
I think they're politically very dangerous, and even some within the GOP recognize that. Senator Richard Burr, a Republican from North Carolina, someone who could be fairly characterized as a conservative, called it the dumbest idea he's ever heard. And other conservatives have also lined up against it. Tom Coburn, Republican senator from Oklahoma, he says that this is a bad idea. He says that even if this House measure passed, you wouldn't stop the implementation of Obamacare. He has argued that the plan that the House originally came up with would not even do the job. So there's strong resistance to what the House GOP is doing from within their own party, especially amongst the Senate Republicans. And they see this as something that could hurt them next year during the election, because looking back at the last budget fight, 2011, when the U.S. saw its credit rating downgraded and the stock market plunged, the GOP took a hit politically and it hurt them in the subsequent election. So there's some in the Republican Party who think this is not a great idea.
And I think we can presume that John Boehner is one of them. He did capitulate to support this from the extreme right members of his party. But what does this tell us about his standing in the party and where the party is in general?
Well, it shows that Boehner's weak as a speaker, because the plan he came out with originally was much less aggressive, let's put it that way. Originally what he proposed is that the Senate would first have to vote on a measure to defund Obamacare, and that if that passed or failed, then it would move on to the issue of funding government beyond the end of the month. Well, after a rebellion in his own conference, he had to scrap that plan and put together something much more aggressive, which was now he's going to send to the Senate a package that the Congress cannot fund the government without defunding Obamacare. And because the president and the Democrats in Congress have said they are not going to negotiate on the issue of defunding the Affordable Care Act, it's going to lead to a government shutdown unless the House Republicans back down. So what we've seen is Boehner has had to reverse course to placate the conservatives in his conference. Doesn't show a lot of strength.
And politically, who does the government shutdown hurt the most?
Well, it hurts government workers who won't be getting paychecks.
But I mean the Democrats or the Republicans or the Obama administration.
Well, I think it hurts the Republicans, and polling shows that. There was a recent CNN poll showed that 51% of the public would blame Republicans for a government shutdown, while only 30% would blame President Obama. So that's why the Republicans I mentioned, like Richard Burr and others, John McCain, remember him, ran for president, he called it a suicide note, this aggressive plan. So that's why these Republicans are critical, because the polling shows the public's going to blame the Republican Party for a government shutdown if it happens.
And where does this leave the American people in the midst of all of this political jockeying?
Well, I think it puts their financial assets at risk. We've seen the stock market have some volatility in recent weeks, and if there's a government shutdown ahead of a fight over the debt limit, which the last time threw the markets into disarray, it could have a real impact on the stock market. And it's not just for people with money in the stock market. What we saw the last time, and Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed, talked about it this week, the last time there was an impasse over the budget in Congress in 2011 that caused a major market fluctuation, it hurt economic confidence across the country. So we would see reverberations across the country, affecting people's jobs, affecting their livelihoods, affecting money in their pockets. So that's why politically this is very dangerous.
Yeah, it's safe to say buckle up because it's going to be a bumpy road. Alexander Bolton, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And you're watching Arise America.